get some sound.
Oh, no.
Good evening. This is the Services Committee meeting for the City of Sunbury, June 4th, 2025. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Capel?
Here.
Mayor St. John?
Here.
Mr. Air? Here. Mr. Grumney?
Here.
For present, we have quorum.
I'm gonna move to approve the minutes of our May 7th meeting. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Ayer. Roll call?
Mr. Capel?
Yes.
Mr. Air? Yes. Mayor St. John?
Yes.
Mr. Grumney?
Yes.
4 yeas, minutes passed.
We attracted a whole lot of public attention I see today, so we'll skip the visitor section and go on to Streets Program, one of our favorite topics.
I can only assume everyone is watching online. You'll notice there are 4 different topics on the agenda. Most of the time will be for the street program bid results. So feel free to ask questions. I don't want you to be concerned that we won't be able to get through it. The other 3 items will have just brief updates.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so just to set the stage really quick for what we're looking for from this group, before I get into the actual bid results. For services, we are looking for support, concerns, or questions about the bids and the recommendations that we, the staff, have for the award. There will be a first reading at council tonight for this item. So what I mentioned at council 2 weeks ago was that we would be going to services. If we had support for the recommendation, we would ask for approval. If not, it's something that we can discuss and push out another 2 weeks if needed.
But you may want to add, you have talked to Decker.
Yes. So one of the items, the apparent low bidder, which we'll get into, I called them and asked them when, if they were awarded the contract, they would like to start. And they said that if they were awarded, they could start as early as late June if we could match that pace. So they are excited to get started on the project, and the sooner they know, they'll start putting a schedule together so that they can get started on the street work and the Columbus Street parking lot.
So we're potentially looking for passage tonight or passage at the next meeting?
Recommend we pass
Pass
that.
it tonight and get, yeah.
Decker base 2, 3, and 5.
And that's all in there. The sheet that you have in front of you, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. No. No, this is not it. The map that you guys have in front of you, we'll see if we can get the correct map up. But I did do a handout for you guys so you can take a closer look at it. That also has the bid results in it. Welcome.
Yeah. Here, let's try.
Well, we'll get that presentation up, but essentially that page has the bid results, and at the very bottom, you'll see a chart that has the base bid and all 5 of the alternates. So I just wanted to go through and talk through the results. As I mentioned before, looking at the left side of that matrix, I have the 3 bidders listed. That would be Chemcoat, who had the streets project last year, Decker and Strasser, all people that do typical road work in the central Ohio area. Decker Construction was the low bid for the base bid and any combination of the alternate awards. And therefore, no matter what the recommendation would be, Decker would be the lowest bidder. The base bid includes most of the streets other than what you see in the alternates, and then the Columbus Street parking lot as well. There are also a few items for some storm catch basin repairs around the city that are a little delayed and we were hoping to get to last year, but this year we've included them in the base bid. It also includes the 2 RRFBs, so those flashing beacons around General Rosecrans Elementary School on Fairland Road and Highland, or sorry, on Heartland Meadows. So thank you, Amber, for getting this up. So just going through the alternates really quick, I tried to color code it. As you know, I love a good color code when I go through my matrix, but the yellow items along the top row, those would be the recommended items that I'd like to present. The red are 2 that I think we can wait until next year, and we'll go through them very quickly. Alternate 1 is Arbor Drive. That item is just based on being one of the best of the worst streets, essentially having a PACER rating of 4. And if you remember, 1 is the worst case and it's on a scale of 10. So 10 would be the best. And that 4 is right at the top of the limit. Driving the road, it looks like something we can work with Public Works to do crack sealing and some preventative maintenance with our team in-house. It also is one of the longer stretches of roads, so it was estimated just north of 200,000. For alternate 2, that's South Vernon Street. This was an item, a section of road that was on last year's packet. We recommend that we keep it in this year's in hopes that we can restore South Vernon Street. We just have a few different items there that may cause that one to be delayed further, but for now we are recommending that we move forward with Vernon. The alternate for the police parking lot, the condition of the parking lot is not the best. We also would like to do a few improvements for access management as far as putting some parking barriers in there to avoid having vehicles cut that corner and sometimes drive through the parking lot. So I'm recommending that we do the parking lot this as part of this packet. And then alternate 4 is West Sedgwick Avenue. This is a current gravel road as part of the cemetery, and there was a desire to have it paved. That pricing, especially for Decker, you can see I highlighted it in red text. It came in much higher than the engineer's estimate, likely due to some unknown conditions for the base. Essentially, how good is the soil going to be to put in a road in that location? So this will be one that we'll keep that section of road gravel for now as the recommendation and look to do some improvements in the future. And again, have our public works team go out there and do preventative maintenance, potholing, and potentially maybe some berm work as well. And then alternate 5 is rejuvenation. This is the bulk of the presentation, so I have additional slides going through what an asphalt rejuvenator is. It's yellow. I am recommending that we move forward with this pavement preservation technology. So with that, just before we go to the next slide, all of the yellow items, I know I have a few different rows there at the end, but that yellow cost in the second to last row is 1.89 million. That's the recommended bid for the base bid plus alt 2, alt 3, alt 5. And then I have another column next to it which shows having a small contingency in there as well, which would be recommended just in case an unknown condition were to emerge. It's a very common practice for awarding these construction projects. Go to the next one.
That's a quick question. So where does the difference between what we have budgeted and what this total is come from?
Yeah, so if you look at the very bottom row, I've got the category called budget, and then it has a bunch of the gray rectangles down there as well. It's 1.7 million for the recommended budget for construction. So we had approximately 1 million for the streets paving portion of the project, and 700,000 was estimated for the Columbus Street parking lot. If you recall, we did bid out the Columbus Street parking lot earlier on its own, and we had a bid come in over 900,000. So the engineer's estimate for that portion of this work is closer to 850,000, but we had budgeted less than what the anticipated cost would be. So this 1.89 million is very close to the engineer's estimate for what these items would be. In fact, it is a little bit less. If you go up to the top, it's just over 2 million for what Verdantis had anticipated. So this next page, if you turn your sheet over, I did print this one out as well. This is just a road map. Blue roads indicate the streets that were paved within the city or resurfaced last year or the year before. So these streets are a prime example of good options for rejuvenation. So I have a few slides on what that is to kind of explain it. Have you guys ever had a presentation on asphalt rejuvenator or Reclamite?
Yeah, we've heard about it, but probably not
A
exhaustive.
while.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. All right, well, I just have a few slides on it. Will you go to the next one? So the example I use specifically in here is Reclamite, just because based on who we would be awarding the low bid to, I happen to know that their contractor would be Reclamite, so this product. And this is where I got some of the slides from so that we could go through and talk about it. But essentially, Reclamite is a surface treatment that is liquid with a little bit of sand. It's essentially a sealant. When you think about roads that are in a condition that would be ideal for this type of treatment, think about a newer street, something that maybe doesn't have much crack sealing on it at all, if any. And this is just to add that oil. It's a Maltese resin back into the road. Another good analogy, I'll go with lotion. If your skin is really dry, this is like putting lotion on top of the road. If you're into dentistry, it's also like sealing your teeth when you have a cavity. I didn't want anybody to, have a flashback there, but that's also a good analogy because it is a protective coat. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So these are just a couple examples of what the process looks like. You can see they spray the liquid, which comes out this kind of pretty pink color. And one of the benefits is you can actually see where it is on the asphalt to make sure that you are covering the entire road surface. It is like an equivalent of an oil lotion on the street. This liquid is a little bit sticky, and therefore when they go by, that step 2 is light sand. This helps with that tackiness. One of the most common questions that residents get when they hear that it could be a little bit tacky is, well, how long is it going to be in that condition? Typically 45 minutes to an hour before traffic can drive on it. 2 to 3 hours, we don't recommend residents walk on it with their shoes. This is the type of treatment that we would notify residents that it's occurring, what it is. They have little door hangers that go out and talk them through this process. Within the next 1 to 3 days, they typically go back and sweep up this very fine sand particles, and then you have the finished surface of the road.
Does the road need to stay closed until the sand is swept off, or is it pretty good to?
So the people that do the application do a very good job of notifying residents that are going to be home at the time, because the ideal is stay off of it for the first 45 minutes to an hour. It doesn't mean that you couldn't drive on it, but some of that tackiness could get on your wheel, but it's not a tar material. It's much more of a liquid, like a very thin nail polished
Mhm.
liquid, if that helps you with.
So once that hour has passed, basically business as usual, and they just come back the next day to sweep it up.
With driving, we just encourage residents, if they want to make sure they don't get stickiness on their shoes, we try to encourage them not to walk on it.
We need to restripe anything afterwards?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the treatment can be done on streets. As you can see, there's a yellow line on here on this example road. When you do this type of treatment, if it goes over existing lines, it can actually make the line very dull, but it typically only lasts for a couple of weeks. So it's really just a matter of how much of the paint looks like it needs to be replaced and whether or not we'll have to go back and do the striping. I think it's a great practice to do it. But if the condition warrants that we can wait, then maybe we can keep the paint as it is. Then let me just make sure I hit all of these. Yes, it's got a few things in here as far as low cost, low impact and low impact to the residents. It doesn't take as much time as a mill and fill and some of your more in-depth road services. The other thing is I know it's pink at the moment. After you put the sand on it, it cures in a darker color, and therefore it does give the surface that new road look and feel. We go to the next slide.
Is that something you apply every year, or is it,
Yep, so you are able to apply this treatment and then reapply as necessary. That's typically something you may have to get a recommendation if you're going to want to do multiple treatments. But typically what most municipalities do is they come in and look for streets that have a certain rating. For our 1 through 10 rating in that PACER system, they're looking for streets that are in that 7 and 8 range. So essentially just a little bit of cracking, maybe not to the point where it's time to do a massive amount of crack sealing. And that would be a good candidate for this. But yes, you can do it multiple times. Most municipalities only do it after that first 2 to 3 years when the road deteriorates just a couple of points.
okay.
And then you see how long the treatment extends the life, which I have a couple slides on at the end. This is just a depiction of examples of treated versus untreated roads. And essentially you're trying to show here that water is the enemy. Water is what causes your road to deteriorate faster, especially in Ohio where we have freeze thaw. This is where salt can get in and road. The picture in the top right corner, I think that's a great example of a treated section where it had this surface coat that acts like a sealant and allows the road to dry faster. So essentially this type of treatment will help during the winter when snow is on the road. It'll help it dry faster and you can use a little bit less salt on a street that can wick away water faster. Go ahead and go to the next. Thank you. I've got some numbers here kind of showing the cost benefit analysis and the percentage of the cost compared to a typical mill and overlay or mill and fill. So 8% of the cost compared to a regular mill and fill is the addition for this type of treatment. And I took an example of the bid numbers that came in for the mill and fill on this road and had this calculated to kind of show where these numbers were at. On average, the asphalt rejuvenator can add approximately 5 years to the pavement life. I did speak to one of the representatives and they said in Ohio that's pretty common. So when you step back and you look at a road that has a mill and fill, without Reclamite, without a rejuvenator, you're looking for this surface treatment to last 10 to 15 years. Sure, there's going to be potholing and other items to improve the road in that 10 to 15 years, but that's how long we want a mill and fill to last. So if you can think about adding another 5 years to that service life, that's going to save you money over time. It looks like there's also a cost comparison just in the cost for a rejuvenator. 1 mile of road for a mill and fill equates to doing this surface treatment on 12 lane miles. So very affordable. Go to the next. And this shows what the cost ends up being over that anticipated lifetime of that mill and fill. It's per year up there. I think it's hard for you guys to see. So it's costs per lane mile per year. This equates to about a 25% overall cost reduction when you combine using an asphalt rejuvenator with a mill and fill street plan. That doesn't account for the crack sealing and some of the other service calls and complaints driven improvements that we may get through our services committee, our department. And then one of the other items I wanted to mention was they provided a list of people in Central Ohio, so other communities that are utilizing this type of program. So if we were to move forward with this asphalt rejuvenation as part of our pavement preservation tools, we'd be in the company of the City of Powell, City of Delaware, Delaware County, a few different townships in Delaware, Orange, Concord, Berlin, Harlem, Genoa are all utilizing this type of practice. Westerville, Dublin, Upper Arlington, Worthington, Reynoldsburg, New Albany, Hilliard, Marysville, Plain City, and Gahanna. So I had used this product in the past and done some pilot examples on streets as well, just so that we could go out ourselves and look at it. And I noticed a difference in it. The customer service with the product is great as well. And in the future, there are tools to look at adding rejuvenation to a cost benefit analysis for an entire pavement program management, which is hopefully the direction we go. And I will have more on that at a very exciting services committee meeting in the future. But what questions do you have about Rejuvenator or anything with the project or alternates?
Good question.
Sure.
So what are the proven results of the rejuvenation program?
So when you look at the side-by-side results, you can see less cracking over time.
I guess when you say over time,
Mhm.
is it 5 years? Is it 8 years?
So 5 years is the extended life. What you end up seeing is deferred maintenance. It's just going to be a longer time before we need to go and do crack sealing on these roads or other maintenance items. So five years is the extension of the pavement over its entire lifetime that is anticipated, but the very short-term results and for the residents is they might see some minor cracks in the road. They'll go through and put this sealant on, and those cracks will go away. It will fill the gaps. And then slowly but surely, again, this is an oil coating, and over time, that is what essentially comes out of the pavement. That's what causes the road to age, because that oil doesn't last over time. This is like putting lotion back on the road in order to rejuvenate it.
Has it been proven? Have you spoken with these other communities?
Yep, so I worked for one of the communities and I've seen the benefits of it. especially in the short term, just by looking at side-by-side examples. Some of these tools, these companies that do analysis of the cost benefit, you can actually take your roads and project out what type of road treatment you're going to have, such as rejuvenator, mill and fill, a deep road reconstruction, a cape seal. There are different road treatments out there. When you start utilizing some of these pavement technologies, you can put it in and see which treatment makes the most sense for your roads and how it extends the life of your roads. And it's an interactive tool. So if you've been using this software, I believe the Delaware County uses a pavement management system online in order to project how the road is responding. You know me, I'm all about data-driven decisions. So seeing what money you put in and how much of a difference it makes will help us make better decisions about what we should utilize. But at this stage of the game, I just want to get us comfortable with the idea of like pavement preservation and utilizing this technology. I'd have to say, with that many communities utilizing it, I have a feeling they're onto something.
I'm sure, and you're right, it's like a hand cream or a manicure,
Yes.
but a manicure is expensive.
Mhm.
So I would imagine repeated applications of this is fairly expensive. Would it be worthwhile to do all the new roads?
So different communities do this at different stages, but they typically recommend to put a rejuvenator down within the first 1 to 3 years. But you could put it down on pavement depending on the condition of the road. That's a little bit older than 3 years, but that's the sweet spot. Mhm.
Like sealing your driveway. I mean, if you drive through a neighborhood, you can tell the folks that seal their driveway versus the ones that have lived there 10, 15 years and haven't. I mean, you have alligator, cracking and, the driveway ends up turning into rubble, and that's like way down the line. Now, and I think this, when you flip over this page and say this costs $1 million and this costs, and this might be upside down. No, this costs 70,000.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like, yeah, let's do everything we possibly can to try to prolong the life of the pavement.
But aren't they,
It's a very low cost entry proof of concept for our city only, but I think the other cities that are doing it, especially the ones that are much larger, and the county program is 10 million, 15 million a year.
Yes.
I mean, there's a reason they're doing them.
Yes. 8% of that overall cost is what this addition is. And then when you look at the lifespan, that last slide, if you want to go to that chart, this one, this shows that cost difference over the course of a year, just comparing it side by side. Does that make sense?
yeah, no, I think it's a great program. I agree. I just think once a road really starts to crumble, and I think it'd be, if we've got a lot of old roads and they're in not so good of shape, I don't know if this would be worth using it on those older roads until they're really repaired
That's what
properly.
Carla said. Carla said they only use it on like you are gonna do it on one you paid last year, in most cases, maybe you are.
The year
But
before.
the year before, it's like, it's just deteriorated enough where the elasticity in the pavement is starting to break up. Salt, you're getting small micro cracks. You can see it with your eyes, it's turning gray. It just doesn't have the moisture, the oil that is really like the glue that holds the road together. And this is adding additional glue, lubrication, sealing,
Yep.
at a very low cost.
Yep, and we are not recommending putting the rejuvenator on the streets that are being milled and filled this year. That map has streets that were done in previous years. So we don't recommend putting it on streets that are in the PACER rating 2, 3, 4, which is where we're going after that mill and fill and some more in-depth repairs for the streets. We're not recommending rejuvenator there.
Yeah, this isn't a replacement for repaving or anything like that. This is so it's like you have a nice car, you keep wax on. Eventually, that
Mhm.
doesn't help your car. Your car ages but at least for the first 5 years, I can keep that thing looking shiny. So
Yes. You're
Yes.
changing your oil in your car, changing the furnace filter. I mean, this is like routine maintenance that's gonna help elongate the larger replacement costs that come down.
Given that we're primarily talking about moisture on the roads
Mhm.
being what we're protecting against, is there any difference between higher traveled and lesser traveled roads in regards to, so if we were to come along and, a few years after a road is mill and filled, it gets this program, is that going to be as valuable for the lower traffic roads like a Chipmunk as it is for a Miller Drive? All the same?
There are so many factors that go into the deterioration of a road. One of the big ones is moisture related, but of course, the traffic on the road is another consideration. The more traffic, the more impacts is going to be. So when you have a street that is less traveled and you put this rejuvenator on, it actually benefits it even more. So I would look at it maybe in the reverse way. So a street that is very busy, is it worth it to put rejuvenator on it?
Right.
I'm sure Reclamite would say, why, absolutely, it would be worth it, but that's the type of decision that we'll have to make to see what the recommendation is as we put the data in to see, does it make sense to spend the money on this? Or do we wait to do a mill and fill or something more in depth on some of our higher trafficked roads? It's really the streets that tend to deteriorate the fastest are the ones that have beautiful tree canopies because you just can't get the water off the road. It can't dry.
Any more questions?
Just to circle back on the alternates, making sure I know most of the presentation was focused on the rejuvenator. I had recommended 2 streets to potentially delay to future years. And then moving forward with South Vernon Street and the police parking lot and rejuvenation. So that's base bid plus alt 2, 3, and 5. When you do get to council tonight, the recommendation in there, did you want to go over it?
I was just about to do that, but go for it.
The recommendation that moved forward was just for the base bid, but that was not the intention and the recommendation of staff. So we would be looking for agreement and recommendation from services that we could communicate to council that we're in favor of adding in alts 2, 3, and 5 for the amount of actually the number that isn't highlighted in yellow in the matrix, but to the right of it, 1.983 million.
Right, so what she's saying is that legal counsel has drafted the ordinance with just the base bid amount in it. So if we're ready to act this evening, we're comfortable with these 3, we just need to make sure we amend that to reflect the the adjusted price, which will help you with that when we get to that point in the council meeting.
Second my own motion from earlier, but I support their staff recommendation.
Would second that from earlier. I think it makes sense. The rejuvenator, I think, is a no-brainer, and I look forward to coming back to it in the future and seeing how it pays out and what our ROI is on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
All right. Moving along in the agenda.
Yes. Where is it? Walnut Street stabilization?
So just a quick update on that. I know I've been at every council meeting telling you I thought it was going to be ahead of schedule, and here we are. We had some very rainy weeks and compaction issues on Walnut Street continue. We have had some dry weather this week, although I believe we're heading into rain again tomorrow. Our plan is still to wait. We let the residents know it would be 2 to 3 weeks before we would reevaluate and look to come back to do compaction testing and pave the road. It just so happens that assuming the award for the streets project moves forward, it is Decker Construction who is also doing the paving work on Walnut Street, which might be one of the reasons why they're trying to line up the end of June, early July for construction, because they're going to be here anyway. More on that as I get an update on the schedule.
And the rest of the project is completed,
Yeah, the soil milling has been completed. So they were on to the next phase of the project, which was just over excavation, installing that base layer. They're going to pave the road, and then after that, install a guardrail, potentially some fencing barrier, because it is very very tight as you look over the edge at the soil nails. So for comfort, we're looking at putting in maybe a little bit more than just there. They'll come back through and do striping. The road will be open to McGill Road, and then in the future, we may look to open it all the way through to almost every Hartford. Thank you, Hartford.
Yeah, so what limits the ability to open all the way to Hartford at the moment is there are some things that are currently in the public right of way that we need to work with property owners to get out of there. It also looks like the striping of the road, where what am I gonna say? Is this an apartment complex? Okay, yeah, the senior citizen apartment complex, there's some striping there that we would have to rework.
Yep, and a barricade that needs to come out on the Hartford.
Yeah. So there's a little more to be done, I guess is the point,
Right,
to get it all the way open, but.
and the condition of that road needs to be paved as well. It was not considered in our scoring matrix because it hasn't been considered part of the road for a while.
All right, next up then is wastewater treatment.
So they are well on their way at the wastewater treatment plant with mobilization. They're starting to locate the utilities in the field between the school and the plant itself. We will have progress meetings every 3 to 4 weeks. At the next progress meeting, I'll be inviting Jim Hall, who's with the schools, to attend a meeting just so that they understand what that area between the school and the wastewater treatment plant is going to look like and what will be happening in that area. There's no intent to do anything on the school's property, but it might not look or feel that way based on utilizing that area for some of the spoils. Some of the excavation material will be in that location. We'll also have a fenced off area where some of the water work some of the water line relocation work will occur as well. So
Mounding and the fencing happen at the end.
it will happen throughout, but it will primarily happen when they start to dig some of the larger tank and concrete items. It's not going to be happening necessarily in full swing by the end of the summer, but as they start to dig some of the larger components, they'll start to fill the dirt in closer to the edge where there's a steep hill right next to the school that is technically our property, and they'll start to mound that up. The final intent for some of the landscaping in that area is to build that area up and to put trees and other landscaping items in that area.
So it's gonna happen over time. I just envision we're gonna get questions at some point, like, what's the city doing? Even though we've talked about this a lot, I mean, it just, it's been somewhat dormant for the past 6 months, a year, since we closed the land deal with the school, so. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep, and I can keep you appraised of what that's looking like as we go out there, and I can try and include some of the pictures in the staff report.
That'd be helpful,
When
thank
did
you.
you say that was due to start?
So the project itself has already started to mobilize for the earth.
The earth moving.
So as they start to move even a little bit of dirt around, they'll start to see some mounding, but maybe not along the perimeter. It has not started yet where they're really, it looks impactful. But when we get to that stage in the schedule, I can share that information so that people are aware it is going to, the exaggeration was it's going to look like that entire valley is filled in. It's not, but it is going to be some large mounds as we dig, and then we'll redistribute that earthwork around the site and do a landscaping plan.
It'll be good to get a heads up on that because we will get questions about it, I figure, when that's.
Especially in snow season, sled riding.
Oh.
We're gonna create a little half pipe, maybe a stopper.
Yeah.
And I'll be talking about the construction barrier that will be going.
All right.
Bay Hill at a sewer plant. I may stay away. I may stay.
All right. And then finally, we have fiber updates.
So if you hadn't heard, which I believe may have been more of a presentation before I came, but fiber is coming to, Sunbury. So
Yeah,
we.
so let me add this. I know we've talked a little bit about fiber in terms of the city's fiber, the backbone, the network we've been talking about building out. So, what I've asked Carla to do though is talk about the private providers who are looking to do fiber to the home. So there's a very kind of intense potential couple of projects that could be underway here relatively soon. So this is kind of what the private side is doing as it relates to fiber in the city.
Yep. So specifically, we have two primary applicants going through technically right-of-way permit process for large-scale fiber installations. One of which has some of it as aerial, so essentially where there are existing poles, they want to do some replacement along the poles for their wires. Not a big deal, a little easier to move forward with that aspect from an approval process standpoint. Our guidelines for fiber installation are geared more towards directional boring, so underground fiber installation. So we just wanted to make sure that services was aware that there are going to be multiple entities coming in different neighborhoods doing this directional boring. Excuse me. Most of the boring is going to be in the tree lawn area or behind the sidewalk in a utility easement in these locations. We are planning on having full-time inspection, at least at first, for any fiber provider that comes in to make sure that, one, they are installing it correctly, but also making sure that they're doing the restoration from a neighborhood standpoint. This is a service that is provided to the neighborhood, so I'd like to think that they'll end up keeping the construction site as clean as possible. But with any project where you're going to have to dig in a few different spots and then do a repair, it can take time and settlement to bring them back and have them continually maintain those areas.
We have a schedule by neighborhood.
So we don't have a schedule yet for any of the neighborhoods, but that is something that we've requested from at least one of the providers that is going to have multiple permits in. I believe they've got 10 applications in right now. They're hoping to get started in June, and they'll have to tell us exactly which neighborhoods. But the approval process we're looking at is going to be a couple neighborhoods at a time. And then they do all the public outreach for the communication with the residents to let them know what the project is going to be. They had said for the typical neighborhood, it's anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks that they come in and essentially install fiber very quickly. We'll see how that timeline actually works out as we get into this inspection process with the providers.
So maybe just a couple other points in terms of that. So the providers themselves, so just so you know, Alta Fiber, Brightspeed are the two companies that are doing the engineering at the moment. I think the plan is both of them drop literature at the residents in advance of them being in the neighborhood, kind of door hangers, if you will. We are going to be in your neighborhood soon. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the contact person if you have any issues. So when Carla says, they do the outreach, the community outreach, I mean, that's part of it, is that there is a customer service representative that a resident can call at any given time. That's not the city, to basically do the follow-up work. Now, we've got some inspection work obviously to do. I mean, we will be following it as well, but they will designate a person to contact, and every resident should know who that is and how to contact that person. So it's kind of standard practice in the fiber space, but for a community that hasn't really experienced this a whole lot, it'll be new to a lot of residents. Yeah, so we'll keep you posted on the schedule as we know more, but it does look like it is getting very close to at least one of the providers.
When it's in, that will be their internet provider.
They'll have the option to have that service. Yep.
Right, so more competition in the marketplace for residents to choose. Mhm.
Well, that's the end of our stated agenda. Does anybody have anything for good of the order? All right,
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn by Mr. Grumney. Second by Mayor St. John. Roll call.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Strayer,
Yes.
Mr. Capel.
Yes.
4 yeas, we are adjourned.